sometimes the kid with bad manners is not the other kids, it's your kids. Because as parents, we rarely think of our children as the bad ones. It's always, that kid, that child. There's always another kid who is teaching your child bad manners. But sometimes it's your child who is teaching other children bad manners. So that's just something to throw in there. So don't be so confident that you know your child and all that, to the point whereby you kind of just take a back seat. Be proactive. Now, the third idea that I just want to throw out there, about 2 or 3 years ago, we had a school function, and parents also attend these school functions. So I remember I just started having a conversation with this parent. She's a counselor, and she also has her children there. So we just started talking about certain things, and somehow we started talking about parenting. And she told me something that has never left my mind. That thing, I found it to be very, very insightful and very impactful. She said, we live in a time where people put so much emphasis on quality time. You're in a relationship and, let's spend some quality time. Quality time is everything. It's a love language and all that. But she told me something that I found really fascinating, and I've taken it to heart till this day. She said, in as much as there's a place for quality time, when it comes to children need more than quality time. Children need quantity time. Children's brains are not like ours. The psychology of a child is not like us adults. As a grown-up, if I spend a lot of quality time with my wife and then I travel for work or for something for the next 6 months, I'll survive and I'll be okay. But the way children's brains work, with children it is out of sight, out of mind. So you can spend so much quality time with that child, but if you disappear for 2 weeks, that child forgets you. Now, when I say forgets you, it's not that you vanish from their brains. They can still remember you and they know who you are. But that closeness, that attachment that you created with them during that quality time, it no longer has such a heavy impact as it was supposed to have. So with children, it's not enough that we have quality time. With children, quantity time is everything. And by the way, if you think about it, when you're raising children, you don't inculcate a family culture to children by giving them instructions. You don't tell them, do this, do that, do this, do that. Fine, instructions have their place. I'm not saying that it's not. But when it comes to children, instructions are not as potent. What is potent to a child is demonstration. Children copy a lot from their parents by what the parents demonstrate. Actually, let me just say something small about building a family culture. A culture is a way of doing things. And when it comes to kids, you don't teach a culture, you don't inculcate a culture to a child by giving them instructions. Do this, do that, do this, do that. Kids don't learn that way. Kids learn through demonstration. Fine, instructions have their place, but kids learn more and better by what they see you doing, by what you have demonstrated, not what you have said. There's usually this whole conversation of which culture does your child pick. We talk about the dominant culture. You raise your child in a certain way, and then once they go out into the world, they get influenced by the culture of the world. This is what I think. Kids will always be influenced by the dominant culture. What makes a culture dominant in a child's life is the level of relationship that this child has with the people who are influencing that culture. Culture is best inculcated through relationship. You don't inculcate culture by telling you, do this, I told you to, you inculcate culture through relationship, value systems, mindsets, worldviews, and all these things. These things are best passed in the context of relationship. And that's why for kids, quantity time matters, because you can only demonstrate something through relationship if you're present. Quality time is good. But when it comes to the inculcation of culture, when it comes to training a child and bringing this child up in a certain culture, quantity time is everything. You cannot put away the place of relationship and being present. So if the culture in the house is the most dominant, that is the culture that is most likely to influence the child. If the dominant culture is the culture in the world, that means that that child has a closer relationship with his peers or with the influences in the world than they do at home. That's why it's easy for them to follow what their friends and their schoolmates are doing rather than to follow what the parents are doing. Because the relationship with their peers is stronger than the relationship with their parents or family members. I like how Jesus speaks. So this is John chapter 5, 19 to 20. Verily, truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing. Because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. For the Father loves the Son. Now this is talking about relationship. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all he does. For I do what I see my Father doing. Think about that for a minute. Now remember what we said culture is. Culture is a way of doing things. So Christ is simply saying, my culture is established and sustained by my relationship with my Father. The reason it was so easy for Christ to do or to walk in the culture of the Father is because he had a relationship with the Father. And that's a very good demonstration that we see with parenting and children. I do what I see my Father doing. In other words, the culture of my Father is in me. Why? Because I see him doing it. I'm in a relationship with him, and that relationship allows me to observe him and see the things that he's doing. And because I observe and I see the things he has demonstrated to me, it is easy for me to follow suit. And that's exactly how kids operate with their parents. They do what they see their father doing. I remember there's a time I used to come home and, my kids had this habit of they'll just enter the house and they throw their Crocs anywhere, they throw their slippers anywhere, they walk with them in the carpet. And I started telling them, hey guys, you cannot be doing this. When you come to the house from school or from wherever, place your shoes here. And I repeated that thing for so many times, but it's like it was entering from one side and leaving the other side. So what I started to do is that I started timing them. Every time they enter the house, I enter the house with them. And then I do it so strategically that as I enter into the house, they see me removing my shoes and placing them where they're supposed to be. I did that so many times. And guess what? They started doing what they were seeing me doing. In fact, it became so... they got so into it such that sometimes when I forget, they'll be the one who will be telling me, hey, Daddy, you have put your shoes in the wrong place. Bring them here, And that's what we really want with our kids. But guess what? You cannot teach that. You cannot inculcate that. You cannot lay out a culture for the home if you are not present, because they need to see the culture in effect in you. They need to see you effecting and demonstrating that culture before they can adopt it as their own. So it is not enough for us to give instructions. You have to be present. Now, I know some of you are listening to this and you're like, what is Curtis trying to say? I understand. We are living in strange times, and you gotta do what you gotta do to bring home the bacon, Some of you travel for weeks and months just to go make money so that your family can be supported and all that. And I'm not here to blame you. I'm not here to judge you. Those are the cards that life has dealt you. It's not in my place to tell you how you should run your home. However, something has to give. Studies have shown that kids who see their parents around most often tend to fare well. Not just in academics, but even in other areas of life. That kids who felt like their parents were mostly absent. This is not a place to make you feel bad about your life choices or whatever. This is just a place for you to think about some of these things. This is a challenge for you to come up with a system or a structure that, in as much as you have to be away for a certain period of time, what is that system or structure that you'll come up with that you'll not compromise so much of your presence, which your kids really need for the sake of making a living?